Isn't YouTube fabulous? I mean, it actually allows us to have free speech, discuss whatever you want to, without censorship, and having those gatekeepers that operate in the media having a crack at you. So here we are back again. It's the 19th of the 7th, and we're into 2016, and I am going to go back to a subject that seems to irritate the hell out of people and actually stretches the limits of tolerance and friendship. Guess what that subject is? It's the flat earth. Isn't it wonderful? I've actually found something that I can really irritate people with. I don't know why. I mean, it's just absolutely amazing how intolerant most humans really are. So they get conditioned and brainwashed into seeing things a certain way, and they don't want anybody to come along and take their roof off. Well, too bad, because actually the wonderful thing, as I say, about YouTube is it gives one an opportunity to have free reign. Look, this issue of a flat earth is utterly fascinating, and I urge you to look into it, because it is an absolute door that you can open into a world that has been lost to us. I mean, modernity has, I think, in many ways taken more than it's given. And particularly that enlightenment. Well, I mean, that is such a laugh. Enlightenment was anything but. The Enlightenment ushered in an age of darkness. I have always had that supernatural dimension to my thinking. I mean, I grew up amongst people who were that way inclined, so it's very hard not to have it. And I guess from a very early age, I was looking at the horizon wondering where the curve was. I didn't want to dwell on it for too long because I had other things to think about, like, for example, what was going to be my next motorcycle. I mean, it was a fabulous age. Really, I discovered a saxophone and a motorcycle, and what could be more fulfilling than having that saxophone strapped to your back and heading off to some place where you could play it. Or, you know, maybe that's taking a little license, but I have to say to you that certainly motorcycles were absolutely the key to freedom for me. But little did I know that actually, little bit by little bit, my intellectual freedom was being taken from me. And I had the privilege of being introduced to the Reformation thinker Martin Luther, and also his co-reformer John Calvin. I think actually I might have been one of a few people that have read all 42 volumes of Calvin's Institutes. Certainly read a lot of Luther, and it was with some surprise that I discovered that only about 12% of Luther's work had been translated into English. But, glory days, we now have almost everything translated into English, including, and also with this wonderful YouTube. I mean, it really is. You can hear and see online versions of just about everything. And if you're too lazy to read, and I must admit that it's nice being read to, I've always enjoyed being read to, I can now turn on YouTube and access numerous and fascinating works being read and dramatised. I mean, you know, also the advent of the social networks, we can share things with one another which we could never do in the past. And look, I mean, I've been able to do wonderful research in minutes because of this gift that's been given to us of the internet. So for every bit that you loathe and have contempt for, and the number of trolls and gremlins that are out there in the social networks waiting to trip you up and irritate you, I mean, there are equally many, many good-mannered people, and so they're the ones that we're interested in. I have spent a year investigating a little more the whole notion of a globe. And I never saw the globe with my own eyes. And I've been always someone who's a bit contrary. So basically what happens, I tended to be a bit, challenge everything that came in my direction. That didn't work so well at university. They like to have people do as they were told there, much to my surprise. I thought universities were places where open discussion, the meaning of university I think is actually open. They're anything but open, they're all closed down. So we got deep into the Enlightenment, the Renaissance and Reformation. And it's interesting because they were three strands, very powerful movements. The Renaissance being really essentially a humanist project. The Reformation, a project about recovering what had been lost. And the Enlightenment, man putting himself at the centre of the universe, claiming to be the measure of all things. Hey, that wasn't new. I mean, Plato first announced it. Man is the measure of all things. And the first thing that happened, of course, was that, hang on a second, the first thing that happened was that Lucifer really wanted to dethrone God. And that's actually what happened with the Enlightenment as well, fully blown. Man puts himself at the centre of the universe. Copernicus, of course, hurried that up by putting the sun at the centre of the universe. And then Newton came along and formalised it with some of his cranky mathematical formula. I'm not saying that Newton wasn't bright, I'm sure he was. But, he's an interesting character and he had lots of flaws, like all humans. One of the reasons why I've come to the conclusion that reading the Bible is really important is because it's based on the assumption that it's delivered by the one and only one who is not confused. We're all confused. Come on, be humble and confess. How many mistakes have you made? How many problems have you actually been involved that have started with your confusion? I mean, look. And the wonderful thing is, God is not the author of confusion, as I've been saying recently to some of my contacts on YouTube. Rob, I have to say to you, do not be put off by the equally cranky people arguing for the globe. I mean, the globe is so counterintuitive and it's such a cranky idea. And yet, we've heard it. It just shows you how influenced we are by habit because it's a habitual thing. Tell a lie for 49 times and it'll become true. And we've heard it far more than 49 times. Hitler said that, I think, or something to the effect. And the other thing is, which we have to remember, and my life has actually, experiences have borne it out to be true, the bigger the lie, the easier it is to sell. I mean, it's just absolutely astonishing. And I have to say, Bible speaks so truly too. The wisdom of man is foolishness to God. And, I was watching you, Rob, talking about where the water came from the flood, and I got a profound insight. I have to say, I am very impressed with your scholarship and your commitment. But be fearless. I mean, we must be fearless. We must be willing to stand in the light and fight for our principles. And as long as we have that democratic right of free speech, the marketplace, to go down to the square, the public square, and express your ideas without fear, we must take advantage of it. And Rob, I have to say, you've been doing a pretty good job so far. I think you're actually ahead of a play of people like Chuck Missler, who while he continually talks about co-mingling being a dangerous thing, I think got old Chucky, he's commingled his view of cosmology with the scripture, his view of physics with the scripture. He wouldn't think he has. I mean, you think he prides himself on not falling into that trap. And I noticed when they had a round table discussion with some of his friends that they were not happy with the suggestion that the earth was flat. Well, I have to tell you that I am very happy with this. I'll entertain these things. I don't have a problem with different assumptions and people questioning the status quo of things. Let truth be the final arbiter. The problem being is that a lot of people really just say that, but they don't really believe it. And of course, one of the things which I have become very fond of is the motto that came from the Reformation solely by Scripture. So let Scripture speak. And when you find a proposition in Scripture, search for another one in Scripture that confirms it. That's good methodology, that's good scholarship. Luther actually laid that out very clearly, and I love him for that. I mean, I just think Martin Luther was such a gift to us. As all Reformation thinkers are, I believe God sends them along to cheer us up. I mean, he brightened up the lives of so many people, Brother Martin. And so I am most grateful that the Lord sent him. Unfortunately, as soon as they make progress on that front, as soon as they made some progress, Lucifer got cracking to set it back. So, the king of lies, the king of confusion, the ruler of this world, good old Lucifer, but he will not have the last say. That's where my faith stands. Here I stand. I can do no other. I implicitly believe that God is going to have the last say. So there you are, guys. That's it for now. I look forward to your responses. Shalom.